I'm Mary.
And I'm Jenny.
Couldn't get enough of our podcast?
Well, all right. Here's one more bite.
When it comes to packaged food and the packages they come in, what are the best ways to reduce that waste?
So I am a bin shopper. So I'm one of those people that shows up at the grocery store with these big bins that I've collected, and I go through the grocery store and I try not to use any bags, and I just throw everything on the bin, and then the person at the checkout really doesn't like me. But hey, I'm not bringing a ton of plastic home that
That's
way.
right.
But more and more
Yeah.
grocery stores are starting to have the compostable plastic bags at the grocery store, which I think is great. But of course, bring your own bags too. There's so many ways you can start buying and bringing your own bags to the grocery store to reduce plastic. So that's the biggest one. There's also some really great zero waste grocers that are popping up here and there, depending on where you live. So keep an eye out for that. And shopping sustainably, bulk food stores are always great for that, bringing your containers. And then at home, I just strongly suggest starting to stock up on really great like containers that you can just use over and over and over again. I'm a big fan of these silicone bags instead of having to use like the plastic bags to put my leftovers in. Now you can buy these silicone bags that you can throw in the dishwasher and store your like freezer foods in, and they last forever, and they're see-through and clear, so you can actually see the food in it. I'm not a fan of putting food in the fridge in something that you can't actually see what's in there, because then nobody eats it. Like people open up the fridge and they want to see something, and then they eat it. So those are kind of my short tips on the packaging ordeal.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about composting. And for those of us, including myself, who feel intimidated by this whole process, are there any tips or any advice that you can give us to get started on composting, or even talk a little bit about what composting is?
Yes. So composting is really the best gift you can give to Mother Nature. You are essentially taking what Mother Nature gives to us to feed us, and you are feeding it back into the soil, and which is the best way to nourish especially if you have a garden, to nourish your garden to then regrow food for your family. It's just this beautiful circle of life. And it is such a great way to teach your children about recycling in its best way. And composting doesn't have to be complicated. And I started composting a few years ago, and it started with just eggshells and coffee grounds. And that's what I would collect, and I would add it to my soil. So it really is simply—
I'm going to stop you there for a sec. Soil.
Yes.
You add it to the soil. So are you going directly into your garden, or are you going into a bin?
So there's different ways. You can begin with just adding, for example, eggshells into your soil in your garden. And then we have our own compost bin that we have in our yard, where we will actually we collect all our food scraps, we carry it to the compost bin, we add our layers. So you have your green matter, which is your food scraps essentially. And then you've got your brown matter, which is your grass clippings, your leaves, the cardboard, essentially. So you're layering the compost, and which will then will decompose and become fertilizer for your soil.
Okay, I'm still on the fence about this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm keeping it real, because when I think about city living and I think about putting out food scraps out in the open, would that not be welcoming unwanted guests?
That's a very good question. And I actually have a lot of unwanted guests in my yard. So
and when I say unwanted, in the city here, I'm talking about, like the rats, the raccoons, just a lot of those little buddies.
Oh yeah. And
Okay.
yes, I completely get it. And I think there's this misconception that A, it smells, and B, that it will attract unwanted guests. And that part of it is what you're throwing out into the compost. You should avoid any meat, animal products, cooked food, bread. Those are things that will attract those types of unwanted guests or critters to your compost. And if you are using a compost bin, you want it to be covered. So I have a lid that has holes in it to aerate the soil, but you do keep it covered. It's not a feast for them to just dive in and enjoy.
Okay. Okay. I'm halfway there.
We may get you there soon, Mary.
Maybe. Still halfway there. I'm not going to lie. Halfway.
That was zero waste chef Christine Tizard and food waste advocate Antonietta Ferretti.
Pretty tasty stuff, right?
Didn't catch the whole conversation? You can find Don't Be Trashy on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite platform.
Don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Bits and Bytes Show, or for more at bitsandbytesshow.com.